And now for our top focus this hour, politics has erupted soon after the election dates were announced. The Lok Sabha elections will, if you remember, be held in 7 phases from the 19th of April to the 1st of June. The results will then be out on the 4th of June. However, the opposition leaders are questioning the 7-phase election process. They allege that this is only going to benefit the ruling Saffron Party. Several leaders also say that the result announcement date, which is the 4th of June, is also an excuse for extending the election process. The opposition also questioned the idea of one nation, one election when the Election Commission is not able to conduct shorter duration elections at this point. Now, apart from the Lok Sabha elections, the assembly elections have also been announced in 4 states. These are the states of Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Odisha and Andhra Pradesh. However, when questioned about Jammu and Kashmir, the Chief Election Commissioner said that polls in the Union Territory will be held only after Lok Sabha polls are over because of security reasons. Now, this has become another political flashpoint. The last assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir were, remember, held back in 2014, and for nearly 6 years now, the region has been without an elected government. Now, Jammu and Kashmir political leaders have expressed disappointment over denied elections, and they've even questioned the motive of the Election Commission.
दिसंबर 23 से हमारा लीगली चुनाव कराने का रास्ता खुला है असेंबली का। तो अभी तक तो मार्च ही है, अभी तक तो बर्फ ही है, अभी तक तो कुछ कराने का प्रश्न ही नहीं था। ये पहला मौका था हमारे पास जबकि हम साथ करा सकते थे। सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज ने हमसे कहा कि आप एक साथ कराइए। सबने कहा, मैं कोई उसमें, और हम मिलने ही पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज से गए थे तो उनकी बात सुनना हमारा मतलब काम भी था। उसके बाद जब हमने एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिवली मीटिंग्स की तो ऑल डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स, ऑल ऑफिसर्स, ऑलमोस्ट जितने यूनानिमस पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज थी उतने ही यूनानिमस वो लोग थे कि एक साथ कराने में उन्हें वैसे इतनी दिक्कत नहीं है, बट उन्हें इतनी सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस की एडिशनल आवश्यकता होगी। हम भी इसी इच्छा के थे कि एक ही बार में दोनों चुनाव हो जाए, उसी बार में मशीन जाए, उसी बार में डबल खर्चा भी ना हो। लेकिन उतनी उपलब्धता एक साथ इतने बड़े देश में हो पाना कि असेसमेंट के बाद संभव नहीं हो पाया। और वैसे भी सितंबर तक की समय सीमा तो है ही है, लेकिन हम बहुत जल्दी करेंगे कि हम करें, बहुत जल्दी करें, जिसमें यात्रा का भी ध्यान रखेंगे।
Now, we are going to welcome my colleague Pradeep, who joins us from the ground in Jammu and Kashmir, to get us more of a perspective of the residents of the valley. And we also want to welcome Tushar Gupta, who is a political analyst. Both of them are joining us on the broadcast right now to talk about the main point, which is the J&K elections, which are not going to be slated with the Lok Sabha elections. They're instead going to be happening later this year, as per the Election Commission. Mr. Gupta, do remain with us. Thank you so much for joining us. But before we come to you, first going to be crossing over to my colleague Pradeep on the ground. Pradeep, would you be able to ask the residents of the valley who you're with, how do they feel about the fact that elections are going to be finally be conducted, just not alongside the Lok Sabha elections?
See, you're absolutely right, because this election is not to be conducted along with the Lok Sabha election, the assembly elections. So it has become a kind of a political flashpoint. We have seen that how the statements are coming from the National Conference and right up to Mahua Mitra. She is even trying to politicize the valor of our Agniveer. She is trying to rope in those Agniveers also, though Agniveers have nothing to do with the security. They are the one who are deployed on the border. And they are saying that this is a disappointment because on one hand, the government keeps on talking about one nation, one election. So why they are not conducting? So I'll be interacting with the people, what actually the people here are feeling. So they also are on the same page, so what the political parties are thinking, or the people have a different point of view. So how you see this thing? Because political parties say they are dejected, they are disappointed. Why can't they conduct assembly election? So you are happy that assembly elections are not conducted, or you feel it should have been conducted with the Lok Sabha election?
First we talk about the political parties. They are power-hungry people, basically. And knowing very well that their fate is now sealed. All these people you have talked about, National Conference or others, they somehow want to lap onto power. But where were they, if they really mean a democratic processing, where were they when we had local elections for the panchayats? They boycotted it. Is it very strange? They should have participated. Now, J&K is in a very peculiar situation. We have seen, after removal of Article 370, how the ground level should have been, created for a very level playing field has not really happened. There is a lot of fine-tuning still required, institutional, political. So this fine-tuning, unless this percolates down below, and we are out from the mess of the last 70 years, J&K should not be subjected to a local assembly election at all. This is my very...
So you two agree with him what actually is saying?
I agree with Shailendra Amma. It's very true because we had never seen such kind of development in Jammu region. I see roads, I think everything which is happening for general public. Whenever, if there is a popular government, will be at big loss. Reason being, these local leaders will carry on what ending selfish needs. They will fulfill only selfish needs, whereas common cause will go far.
So very important point. See, the people here are raising one, that why they had boycotted the panchayat elections. We are really concerned about the democracy because often they say that the government is not adopting the democratic means so far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. So why they had boycotted panchayat polls that time? But one thing is quite clear what the people are saying. They say they only want to be chief minister, they want to be rulers, they want to fill their coffer, they want to look after the vested interests, and in their viewpoint also 370 was a kind of a stumbling block. You also feel the same thing?
Absolutely, absolutely. There is no need at
Normally
present.
they say it is for the people because we want that people should have election because it's a bureaucratic state.
People are not happy with the election. People feel that the present regime should continue, and whatever measures have been taken, they should be brought to the ground levels. And people are happy, as you earlier listened. The development work, especially in Jammu region, people are happy. Let the whole work be completed. And
You think that these politicians were not doing anything because when they were
nothing, absolutely nothing. You know, we are the refugees for the last 35 years. Nothing has been done.
See, we have got the people from the Kashmiri Pandit community also. They said that we had suffered because of them. If today we are putting up in homes away from home, it is because of these political class. None of them really spoke. They only tried to discredit our pain. They were busy with the appeasement politics. They tried to shift blame on other than Governor Jammu, and they were giving clean chit to Pakistan and Pak proxy. So they had been suffering a lot. So they feel that this time is not really right for the assembly election because they're very happy with what actually the Lieutenant Governor right now is doing. It is on the path of development, and security scenario is also improving. Lok Sabha election is fine. They will be taking part in that. But so far as assembly election is concerned, they said assembly election can be kept on hold. That's what actually all these people here are saying. So they are not on the same page what the political parties are saying because they have suffered a lot, because they feel whenever the political parties had been in power, whether it was Abdullahs, whether it was Muftis, they'd only be looking after their vested interests. Nobody was concerned about the people. So that's one of the reasons nobody is with them today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Pradeep, thank you so much for helping us get voices from the ground itself. Now, crossing over to our guest who remains on the broadcast with us, Mr. Gupta, thank you so much for staying with us here at Mirror Now. What I wanted to ask you is, do you think the opposition's point is valid? You know, the EC has said no elections until after the polls. The opposition has raised one nation, one election, saying if we can't do it now, how are we going to be able to do it in 2029 when we bring in one nation, one election?
Well, good afternoon, Aisha. Very happy to be on your show. Look, there are two things that the opposition is confusing. One is the number of phases, and one is one nation, one election. When we say one nation, one election, we're talking about simultaneous elections for the Lok Sabha and the state assemblies. When we're talking about the number of phases, we are talking about the distribution of constituencies, the Lok Sabha constituencies in this case, when it comes to voting. So let's assume in 2029, you do end up with the one nation, one election formula. You'll still have multiple phases for elections. It's not possible that 98 crore voters for Lok Sabha alone, and I'm not even talking about the people who are going to also vote in the state assemblies, because that's going to be a separate set of voters, though concurrent. But you cannot have them voting on a single day or even in three phases. Look at the logistics. First part is the logistics of getting the EVMs and the people to the polling centers. The second part of the logistics is getting them out of it and moving them to the next center and to the counting booths and everything. So it's a very, very big exercise. It's a very elaborate exercise. So when the opposition complains that, look, this is a 7-phase election, which was also the case in 2019, which was 9-phase in 2014, I really don't understand what they're complaining about. Because if you're talking about one nation, one election, they were rejecting that idea. Let's be very clear about it. They were rejecting that idea 6 months ago. Suddenly, they're confusing a very different idea to something that is more from an operational and an administration perspective. It's really appalling to see them confused to very, it's apples and oranges, basically.
That's interesting, apples and oranges. Mr. Gupta, stay with us. We're just going to listen in to some very important voices from Jammu and Kashmir, then we'll come back to you.
Well, it's disheartening. On one side, the government of India and the Prime Minister himself wanted one nation, one election. 4 states, they are holding state elections as well as parliamentary elections. Why is this state being denied? And every party, whether it's BJP, whether it's other parties, everybody wanted elections. What is the reason? If they say the security is the reason, I don't think so. Then how is it that security is all right for parliamentary election and not for the state elections?
Shocking, but that was expected. They will have no polls in J&K. सरकार इनके मन मर्जी से चलती है, तो ना कानून का कोई मतलब है, ना कानून का कोई पालन है, शहंशाही है इस देश में.
All right, we're crossing back over to Mr. Tushar Gupta, who remains with us on the broadcast. Mr. Gupta, you just listened into also what Farooq Abdullah had to say. He didn't seem to think that security was a good enough reason or even the correct reason that the Election Commission is giving. Now, interestingly, do you see Mehbooba Mufti or Farooq Abdullah coming back into power in Jammu and Kashmir? What do you think the people of the valley really want at this point?
Aisha, I would have to narrate you some tales from my travel to Kashmir in 2021 when we were just coming out of COVID and the revocation of Article 370 was still fresh in the minds of the people there. You know, one distinction that has happened in Kashmir after 2019 is that there is no political lobby that is encouraging the conflict economy. If you go back to 2016-17, even when there was a PDP-BJP government, you remember how Mehbooba Mufti used to ask for lenience for stone pelters to the government. How Farooq Abdullah used to say that, you know, let it be, these are stone pelters, they're just trying to make some money. There was an entire lobby that used to encourage the conflict economy, and there was no signs of socio-economic progress. Imagine there are minorities within Jammu and Kashmir also, people we never heard about in the 70 years, people we never read about, Gujars and Bakarwals, for instance. These are the tribal people from the mountains. And in Jammu now, in Katra, if you go, these communities are now using Ayushman Bharat to get elaborate bone replacement, hip replacement surgeries done, knee replacement surgeries done. So people at the end of the day, be it a Jammu or Kashmir, be it an Arunachal, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, the economic situation may vary, but the aspirations remain the same, that they want socio-economic progress. They want their children to be able to go to school, colleges, get education, get jobs. So what has happened after 2019, the new political push is towards investments, towards economic progress. You see how tourism is booming after COVID. So the locals also want political stability. They do not want shutdowns anymore. They do not want this threat of terror attacks anymore. They don't want a Burhan Wani in the lobby. They want a Narendra Modi who can give them a guarantee of significant socio-economic progress. And that's what the people say. And if you go to the internal parts of Kashmir, let's say in Uri, which is quite close to the LOC, you go to Pulwama, you go to areas like Hazratbal, they're not even talking about 370. They were not talking about it then. All they want is access. They want to export their agri-produce. They want to export their handicrafts. They just want to be able to make money, have their children, have their families safe, and just, you know, live a normal life like rest of us do in the rest parts of the country.
Absolutely. Mr. Gupta, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a perspective on this very important matter of the Valley's elections, which are, as the Supreme Court has requested the Election Commission, going to be taking place by the 30th of September this year itself, after a period of many years, because they've been without an elected government since 2014 and been under President's rule. Mr. Gupta, we'd like to thank you once again for joining us here at Mirror Now. With this, we're heading into a very short break. Do stay tuned. We'll be right back with more.